Welcome everybody to this Creative Zone webinar, another of our series of webinars that we do every month on different topics. In this case, is all about setting up a company in Dubai and how to set up and operate a new business in Dubai and more specifically in Dubai mainland. We have with us Alistair Paine, who is our business setup manager, together with Romell Gumbs, also a business setup manager that have been with the company for many years now, as well as Calum, who's also been a business setup advisor for a few years now with us at Creative Zone. Alistair, Romell, Calum, thank you so much for taking the time and for spending some time with us today to tell us a little bit more about setting up options here in the UAE.
Thank you, Lorenzo. Thank you, everyone.
All right, so I think we can get going. Throughout the session, feel free to send us your questions. We would like to read as many questions as possible. We have about 90 people connected at the moment, plus everybody that is connecting on our Facebook Live and an Instagram Live. My name is Lorenzo Juris. I am the CEO of Creative Zone. As a small introduction into Creative Zone before we get started, Creative Zone was established 12 years ago, and we are now the largest business setup advisory company in the region. We have offices currently in the UAE, in Dubai. We just set up also an office in Abu Dhabi, and we have offices recently in 2021. We opened offices in Saudi Arabia and in Qatar. We have advised over 45,000 entrepreneurs and business owners set up their companies successfully here in the UAE and the region over these 12 years. And we help people with a variety of other solutions that go from business setup, bank account support, visas, tax and accounting, and many other solutions. Today's topic, as we were saying, is everything that relates to how to set up a company in the mainland. Maybe I will get started with you, Alistair. We were discussing just before getting started that you have a bit of good information related to some of the numbers that come directly from Dubai Economic Department, DED, in terms of how many licenses have been set up, the differences between professional, commercial type of licenses. I think it's a good way to get going today, to start giving an idea of the type of licenses that people can set up here in the mainland.
Yeah, thank you, Lorenzo. Good afternoon, and good afternoon, everyone tuning in. It's great to be on another interesting discussion about company setup here in the UAE and afar. Absolutely, Dubai mainland company setup. I think it's been probably one of their biggest years ever. Some huge news in the middle of the year where 100% ownership was given to nearly every business activity, which has really transformed the Dubai mainland setup. Now it is very, very few activities that now need that traditional 51% local sponsor, which has resulted in huge growth in licensing numbers. And I've been fortunate enough to get some directly from Dubai Economy. In the year of 2021, over 61,000 new licenses were issued, which is a 69% growth against those numbers in 2020. I think obviously 2021 was a better year for everyone. Certainly the UAE made huge strides in their recovery against COVID. And with that huge news in the middle of the year, allowing 100% ownership, the growth in DD licenses has been fantastic. The split between that, just so everyone knows, DD licenses are categorized really into two main, or you could say three main components. You have professional licenses, trading licenses, and then a very small number of industrial licenses. 60% generally was professional licenses last year, 40% trading. So about a 60-40 split between professional and trading. And it was a fantastic year all round. Here at Creative Zone, we've seen a huge shift away from the free zones into the mainland, helped by this 100% ownership decision, but a lot of the other traditional barriers have been lowered or removed. And of course, cost being a huge factor for any entrepreneur, we've seen costs come down significantly, which has all contributed to huge growth, and we're seeing that trend continuing in 2022.
That's excellent introduction, Alistair, and there's some good numbers. I like what you're shedding light on, the issue that 60% of the licenses were professional licenses. That gives you an idea of the type of entrepreneur and type of business owners that are coming to the UAE in the last few months. Romell, what other examples could we give to the audience on what are the other benefits of setting up a company in the mainland as opposed to in the free zone?
Yeah, hi, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us on this webinar. I think in terms of a mainland license, it's always been the best type of license to get. The flexibility of how you work, where you work, open up shops, work with government entities have always been big benefits. But I think the big barriers to entry, like having a 51% shareholder in the company, like the cost of the trade license, needing an office space, they're all barriers that have been removed now. So more and more of our clients are moving down that route and getting more, I would say, not just flexible, but being able to diversify their business a lot more. I think a lot of people were going to the free zones because it was cheaper, more cost effective, and they knew that they weren't getting the strongest trade license, but they needed something to get into doing business here in the UAE. Now, DED, Dubai government, are making things a lot easier, not just even from a trade license perspective, but even things like visas, Emirates IDs, even companies like DWA, they're really sort of pushing, becoming more electronic, more online, more favorable for the client, and making our journey a lot easier. And similar in DED, things are a lot easier than they used to be. So that's why I think a lot of people are going into mainland licenses, just because of the flexibility, and also the cost point has come down a lot, and no requirement for any ownership in the business has helped dramatically.
I'm getting a few questions. People are not fully, maybe especially the ones connecting from outside. What are the key differences? What they're asking, even what is a mainland business? Maybe we need to take it one step back and really explain. Calum, maybe you can come in here. How would you explain, what are the options for an international investor to set up? What is a free zone type of license? What is a DED mainland type of business? Because people need that further explanation before we go deeper into the differences. You're on mute, Calum. Still, we have a problem with his sound. Your sound is not there. Maybe you can take that for now, Alistair, until Calum fixes the sound. And I think we have our tech team there as well. As soon as you fix the sound, we're going to be able to hear you back, Calum.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Lorenzo. So yeah,
is that any better?
Yeah, there you are. There you are. Click it again.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah, some technical difficulties there.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear me clearly now?
Yeah, but we can't see you.
Apologies for that. Sorry, there we go.
There you go. Yeah.
Perfect. So yeah, thank you for the introduction, Lorenzo. Apologies for the technical difficulties. Thank you everyone for joining this afternoon. So yeah, regarding the question, the main difference between company setups, you've got two main types of licenses to establish a company here in the UAE. You have what's called the mainland license, which we've touched on briefly, with the several different types of licenses through professional service-based activities, the trading commercial activities, and the industrial licenses through mainland as well. The other option, the second main option for establishment of companies, would be what's called a free zone license. Now, across the UAE, there are approximately over 45 different free zone jurisdictions in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Ras Al Khaimah, Sharjah, all across all the different Emirates. So depending on your company and what type of license, what activity, costs, budget, would usually dictate on what type of license and which jurisdiction would be best for you to set up. Now, in terms of mainland, as Romell mentioned, it's kind of the official license, if you will, and there are no restrictions on where you can operate, who you can work with across the UAE and international markets. There's also a lot of room for scalability in terms of growth within your company. You can rent office space, you can hire much more employers, you can rent warehouse space across the UAE as well with these licenses as well. On a free zone side of license, you are restricted on how you can operate. This tends to be more for international clients who are looking to operate outside the UAE. And if you're operating inside the UAE on a free zone license, yeah, there are certain regulations and the restrictions that you need to abide by.
Excellent. And I see there's a few good questions coming through already. We're going to slowly start reading some of those. Before we go into the details of type of activities, what to choose between, how to choose between a free zone and a mainland, Alistair, let's take it one step up on the conversation as well. And why would we say Dubai has become so attractive for international investors, international business owners to come and set up their businesses here in the UAE?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question, Lorenzo. I think not just Dubai, but the UAE as a whole, let's take it a bit broader. I think the UAE is a wonderful place to live and work. It's probably one of the safest countries in the world. It's got a great climate all year round. We've now shifted our working week to align with the international market. So we're now on a Monday, Friday week as well, which is just going to enhance business. But safety, security, stability, the battle against COVID-19, we've seen so many countries locked down, economies struggling. I think the UAE has been an example to the rest of the world how to handle a pandemic and come out of it so strongly. I think we saw that last year and we're seeing that continue into this year as well. But obviously the benefits aside from that, taxation is probably one of the best tax environments in the world. There is no corporation tax here. There's no personal income tax. As Calum correctly pointed out, you have a huge variation of licensing jurisdictions where you can set up your business. We have free zone mainland jurisdictions which are catered to every type of business. So all of that comes together to make it a very attractive, safe, secure place to invest in and start your business.
Good. Romell, we're getting a few specific questions. There's people asking about pricing. Could we maybe give a bit of information related to pricing on what would be a starting price for setting up a mainland business? What would be a starting price for a free zone type of company?
Sure. So as we were discussing a little bit earlier, with mainland trade license, with the removal of the local sponsor, it also makes the license a lot more cost effective. So for example, you can get a co-working mainland license for as low as 23,000 dirhams, which includes the trade license, includes office registration, name reservation, initial approval, everything that's required to get your company up and running. If you need a visa, you can also add an investor visa for 4,000 dirhams. So very, very cost effective. I think someone mentioned, why would they set up a company in the mainland ahead of, say, for instance, a free zone in Dubai Internet City? I think historically, when mainland was more expensive, that was the reason. But now, because mainland license becomes so much more affordable and align themselves with the free zone pricing, it makes a lot more sense to go for a mainland license, particularly if you're looking at a growth mindset. Like, you want to get run off this space, you want to hire multiple people, you want to start working with big government corporate entities. Mainland licenses all sit better in that perspective. When it comes to free zones, you have some really cost-effective free zones as well. You can look at some of the Northern Emirates, so Fujairah, Sharjah, where you can pick up a license for as low as 6,000 dirhams, with a visa, 17,000 dirhams, so very cost-effective. But also there's some free zones in Dubai now that are very cost-effective. There's a free zone, Mainland free zone, which is obviously a very lucrative location. And you can get a trade license there for about 24,000 dirhams with a visa. So there's lots of cost-effective options. And this is why we're seeing a lot of people take the plunge in setting up companies here in the UAE. Particularly with the pandemic, people are looking into different opportunities that they're seeing in the market and just grabbing the ball with both horns. So, yeah.
Excellent. Some good points there, Romell. Calum, I'm going to read a question. We have somebody, Kathy, asking if you're providing professional services, architects and engineering type of services for projects in Dubai, are you able to use a free zone license?
Yeah, so it depends on your overall business and what type of entities you're looking to work with. So if you are working with the large developers, the government entities inside the UAE market, then you would definitely need a mainland DED license from that respective emirate itself. This would fall under a professional license. You can have 100% ownership with a mainland license. With all professional activities under the DED, you do require something called a local service agent. Now, that's just simply a local representative, if you will. They don't hold any shares in the company. They're just your local agent, and Creative Zone can actually be your LSA in the market. So we would need to look at your overall view, but it sounds like this type of project and company would need a mainland DED license if you're operating inside the UAE markets.
Now that you're touching on the topic of local service agents, can you explain that we had a question of somebody asking what are the fees nowadays for local service agents? Could you maybe explain in which cases a local service agent is needed, in which case still a local sponsor might be needed?
Yeah, absolutely. So for all professional activities across the UAE, for mainland entities, you can have 100% ownership, as I mentioned, and this local service agent fee is just a representative. Now, the fees for that are all included in our packages. We've got some co-working solutions, as Romell mentioned, starting from 23,000 for a professional license, which actually incorporates our local service agent fees within that price. And some of the new laws which have been implemented as of 1st of June last year changed over 2,000 activities, most of them being commercial or trading activities, which actually allows you to have 100% ownership without a local sponsor. Now, a local sponsor is slightly different to a local service agent. A local sponsor would actually hold shares within the company. Traditionally, you'd have the 51% local Emirati sponsor and the 49% foreign investor. Now, since 1st of June, that has been completely removed for almost the majority of the activities under Dubai mainland and Abu Dhabi as well. Some of the Northern Emirates, Sharjah, Iraq, they're still not quite fully up to date, but the majority, the main Dubai and Abu Dhabi Emirates, you can have 100% for both professional and commercial activities.
Excellent. Maybe at this point, I like to mention that we recently developed an entire business setup guide. It's a 42-page document that we built and that has answers to a lot of these questions. Maybe I'm going to ask our tech team to put a link to this guide. You can please feel free to download the full guide, and explains everything about local service agents, in which cases you need local sponsors, what are the differences between free zone and mainland. It's a good way of also reading it through the guide, and our purpose of today is also try to shed some light on some of these points. Maybe, Alistair, another good question. Can I use one trade license for multiple trading services? I think this is something that comes up quite regularly from our clients.
Yeah, it does. I mean, the answer to that question as well is not entirely straightforward. That if those activities are within the same group, i.e. very, very similar, then yes, it is possible. And you can have up to 10 business activities on any sort of mainland trade license. If the activities are in separate groups on the activity list, then generally the answer is no. So it would really depend on business activity. Sometimes we can make a case to Department of Economic Development as to why they should be combined. And if the logic is accepted by them, then exceptions can be made. But definitely a question to take offline. And I'd implore whoever that asks that, please do get in touch with us. We'd be able to explore further.
Another key thing where the UAE and Dubai has become a little bit more flexible is in the issue of having to rent an office. We have Risa here asking, and this would be sort of the next step of things. It says, do you think that there will be a day we can use home as an office address? Maybe Romell, could you maybe shed some light on how we have been moving on now the allowing co-working spaces and co-working lease agreements, but would a lease agreement in a home be an option at some point?
To be honest, I think the day that it comes is now. I think if you look at it from a perspective of people operating from home and having a flexi desk, a virtual office space where they're paying very, very minimal, if anything, for this sort of service. I think one of the big problems and the hurdles that we have when it comes to having your office based at home is that not everyone has a PO box here, like office spaces do. In other countries, every house has a PO box. So when it comes to delivering material, documents, addresses and so forth, there's limitations there. But what I would say is that a lot of my clients are working from home now, many, many more than previously, and just having a virtual office. For example, we have a business center on the 17th floor of our office here, which is open for our clients to use. They want to meet with clients if they want to come and have a quiet place to work from. But most of the time they're working from home and just utilizing this for their mail and so forth. And we have many different services where we just have mail management. You can have access to the business center. You can even have a direct phone line, which is opened by our receptionist team. So the answer to the question is a lot of people are working from home now. I just think it's one of these things where we're waiting for the development in terms of PO boxes and that sort of thing being available for houses. Indeed.
We have another good question that says, how is it that Creative Zone can help me open a bank account here in the UAE? The issue of bank account openings has been quite an interesting one in the last 1 or 2 years. For some reason, it's still quite quite a thing to go out and open bank accounts. Calum, can you explain the process? What is the needed sort of documents, and how does it play in this regard, in the differences between having a free zone company, a DED company? Which one is a little bit more convenient, especially on this topic of opening bank accounts?
Yeah, absolutely. So depending on which jurisdiction and what company we set up, through our experience and through Creative Zone's history, we can advise and provide a package which is the most compliant package, and we can help from the beginning of the registration of the license through to the visa process and banking as well. Now, through our experiences and all of the company registrations we've completed, we can give you the best possible setup to make sure, or the most closest to the guarantee that you can get to opening a corporate bank account. As Lorenzo mentioned, sometimes, especially in recent years, banking in the UAE can be the most sort of tedious, complicated part of the company setup process. But we're here to help you through the entire process. We've actually got a dedicated concierge department here at Creative Zone, who can assist and liaise directly with all our preferred banking partners here in the UAE and assist with that corporate bank account opening. Now, the sort of general documentation that is required, besides the trade license, the corporate documents, the personal documentation, you'll need a thorough business plan. If you're trading, you'll need to prove your suppliers, who your market is, who your main clientele. So a thorough business plan, source of wealth, so whether it's personal bank statements, existing international company bank statements, and supply all this documentation, general KYC checks from the bank, general background checks from the banks as well. But everything in the setup that we will give you, we will be very confident that you'll be able to open a bank account with all our expertise, experience, and assistance through our concierge department as well. Regarding which option would be better, mainland or free zone, mainland do tend to be a little bit more accommodating for banking. Free zones can be a little bit more difficult. There are what's called high-risk activities, and also you need to comply with things like economic substance requirements, which means that you need to have some sort of physical presence here in the UAE. So some jurisdictions are a little bit more difficult, but that's exactly what we can advise you on through our concierge and through the business setup and how we can help you at Creative Zone.
Maybe to stay with you, Calum, Demi is asking, how many days shall a shareholder of a mainland company stay in Dubai to get all formalities done, including bank account opening, visa stamping, and do you arrange the necessary meetings with notary and bank representatives?
In short, yes, we can do absolutely everything from start to finish. So if we're looking at a mainland DED, there will be a physical presence required at the notary signing. So all shareholders will need to be present. And then for visa purposes, again, you need to stay in for the entire duration of that visa application stamped. And then for banking, you will need a physical meeting with the banking again. So there are certain stages throughout the registration process, but we will guide you step by step. We'll give you a clear guideline as in when you need to be present for each stage. You can plan accordingly. So you can, for instance, travel in between the license and your visa, travel in between the visa and your banking. So you don't need to necessarily stay for the entire duration. There are certain moments where you can come back, but physical presence will be required. Yeah.
And from what we've seen is when approaching the banks and the banking institutions here, it's key to really get to them with all the proper forms and all the right documentation. You really need good advice from a company like ours in how to go about the approach. I've seen many bank accounts getting delayed because the right documents are not being presented. In some cases, company accounts are being rejected, but it's purely because of the way that the bank is being approached, and the banks have become very selective on the way on the way that they're approving accounts. Maybe one more for you, Calum, is related to these topics. It says, sorry, the chat moved. Do we need a dedicated office with a mainland license? May we have a shared office? Could you provide these shared offices?
Yeah, absolutely. So Depending on the activity again, so for a lot of the activities, you can actually have what's called we can provide a co-working solution. It's the same sort of concept to a virtual, a flexi desk, a shared desk. It's effectively for the registration purposes only, because a facility under the registration of the DED is mandatory. So our packages, our co-working packages, will give you this registration, which again, our packages start from 23,000 for a professional license, 25,500 for a commercial license, which includes that co-working registration. Now, some of the activities do require a physical office. It completely depends, but again, we have connections in real estate departments, and we can help you source these physical offices as required as well.
Good. I mean, there's so many specific questions coming through. Maybe what I will ask for you three gentlemen to maybe start writing your emails here in the chat section. I'm sure there's a lot of attendees that would like to ask specific questions related to the topics that they could be handling. There's more questions related to visas. So to all the attendees, please feel free to reach out to Alistair, Romell, or Calum with specific questions, and we're going to go ahead and continue for today. One gentleman is saying, I was made to understand that I can get my Dubai mainland trade license and visa residency in 3 to 5 days. Can you please confirm? Romell, can you shed light on those timelines?
Those timelines are very, very short, I would say, in terms of getting the trade license and a visa, because it's not just the trade license that you need to get, it's also the immigration card, and then you have to get an e-visa and then get the stamp and put it inserted into your passport, which also takes some time. So things can be moved along quickly, and things can be pushed as long as all the documentation is correct, as long as you know, there's certain restricted nationalities. The activity can play a part, because if there's special approvals, we need to wait for certain approvals to come through. So I would say it's possible, but I wouldn't give those timelines to someone, because there's always different hurdles that you need to get over, depending on the activity and the visa and so forth.
Yeah. Alistair, I have a question that I think relates to the type of experience and expertise that you have as well. Ross is asking, can the company operate under an English law environment jurisdiction? And I had another question that kind of related to this possible jurisdiction, is saying, can the mainland company work as a holding company? So what kind of jurisdiction falls under English law or common law, and what type of companies will allow to act as a holding type of entity?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very good question. The answer to the question about can the mainland company operate under English law, ultimately, yes, there is a way to do it, as long as you structure on top of it probably an offshore free zone structure such as DIFC, ADGM. There's also a good option in Ras Al Khaimah, which is also regulated under common law. So it would need to be a multi-layer structure. It's something that we have expertise in, that we advise on as well. Depending on the business activity, would depend on how complex the structure is. Whether we need to put 2 layers or 1 layer will very much depend on what the company in the mainland will be doing. And in answer to the other question, can the mainland company be a holding company? The answer is yes, it can, but there are arguably other jurisdictions that are better suited to holding companies. So these common law jurisdictions we're referencing here, DIFC, everyone I'm sure who's in the UAE will know where that is. ADGM, which is the DIFC equivalent in Abu Dhabi. These are, I'd say, the 2 main English common law jurisdictions. So I would please ask Ross and the other gentleman or lady who asked that question, please do get in touch with me. I'd be happy to have a further discussion.
What further details can we give on the type of services that you specialize also, Alistair, on issues to do with, you know, formation of SPVs, special purpose vehicles, and offshore entities, holding companies, trusts, foundations?
Yeah, absolutely. We do offer these almost fiduciary services under Creative Zone. So there are a number of entrepreneurs, I'm sure many people tuning in today, that will have assets worldwide that are either looking to relocate to the UAE or want to structure and protect those assets in a more efficient way. So we can advise on the various structures you've mentioned there, holding companies, SPV, trusts, foundations. And what that does, it protects, it mitigates risk. So we have various risk mitigation packages, both in ADGM and DIFC. where we can separate your assets away from you, and that protects you in case something happens. It allows inheritance of assets to go as per your wishes. As I'm sure everyone, or maybe not everyone, is aware, but the UAE mainland is governed under Sharia law, which means in the event of death, your assets will be passed on as per Sharia interpretations, unless, of course, a will is in place or a structure such as this. So it's something that we have vast experience with over the past 11 years. And anyone that needs any further advice on that, please don't hesitate to get in touch.
Kahinde is asking if we can post a link with the different prices and packages for all the different trading license activities. Again, I will ask my tech team if they can include a link. There is a link where you can fill in a form. The minute that you fill in a form, you will get sent an email from our side that has all the proposals and the pricing for setting up a mainland company, a free zone company. So if the team can include that link, Kahinde, feel free to fill in this form and you will be contacted, and we will share with you all our pricing and proposals. And for everybody, for all the attendees, feel free to fill in this form and you will get all a breakdown with all the fees for mainland and free zone type of companies. Romell, we're getting quite a few questions related to the blockchain, cryptocurrencies, NFTs. What type of companies are people setting up? Which jurisdictions are sort of allowing for blockchain, crypto activity type of businesses?
Yeah, sure. I think, to be honest, with these sort of activities, it all depends on what you're looking to do within there, right? So, for example, if you're setting up a cryptocurrency company, depending on how, if you're trading the products, because you can't trade through a company here in the UAE, so people trade personally, but set up companies just to get visas. Sometimes it's related to software development as well. So I would say free zone companies are probably more suitable for a lot of these companies. And the free zone that we go with just depends on what you're planning to do. And that's where we would sort of position ourselves in terms of speaking with the client, understanding their requirements, what the company will be doing, what they'll be being paid for, who are their clients, where are their clients, and then position them either with a Dubai free zone or with a Northern Emirate free zone, depending on where the business is coming from.
Right. Calum, Ashraful is asking, I'm hoping to get a franchise of Emarat Fresh Plus C stores. Do you help opening these sort of franchises?
Yeah, we can certainly assist with any sort of branches, subsidiaries of existing companies. It is a little bit more complex in terms of documentation. We need attested documents from the home country, further attested by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs here in the UAE. But it's certainly something we can help with all the correct documentations in place. If you want to set up a franchise, a subsidiary, corporate shareholders, that's all okay in terms of the company structure.
They're asking, Tina is asking about minimum share capital requirements. Alistair, what can we explain in relation to, is there a needed deposit for share capital requirements?
The short answer is no. There are still a handful of activities, particularly more the industrial activities, manufacturing activities where it is still required. But look, your everyday professional and sort of commercial trading licenses, it's no longer required. But again, this is another traditional barrier that was removed. If we were having this conversation 6-7 years ago, the answer would have been yes. You would have had to pay at the share capital when it was up at 200,000-300,000 dirhams. But now that's not the case. You can incorporate the company with what's called default share capital. So there'll be an initial value of the shares mentioned in the incorporation documents in the memorandum of the company, but that money doesn't need to be paid up or realized in any way.
Excellent. There was one lady asking if there were specific packages available for female entrepreneurs. I can't find on the chat who had asked that, but if our tech team can find that message and give them that, yes, there is a specific package for women entrepreneurs, and there are some sort of incentives for those. Feel free to reach out to us, to one of the guys on their email, and if we find the message again, we'll send you all the information. And I guess, again, I think we used to have a campaign for women entrepreneurs. If the tech team wants to put up the link related to women entrepreneurs and that package, we will try to share that information. We wanted to briefly discuss, maybe, Romell, other options in relations to Saudi Arabia and Qatar. We have offices there now. We have a lot of interest of people wanting to set up in Saudi and Qatar. Just high level, without having to go into the details of the type of products, what is it that we can tell attendees on how we can help people set up in Saudi and Qatar?
Sure. In terms of setting up in Saudi and Qatar, it's something that's been a big focus for us in 2021 and going to 2022 even more so. And of course, every market has its barriers to entry. With the UAE, we've been here for over 12 years, so we know the market inside out. And that's something that we've been doing over the last couple of years, really understanding what sort of requirements there are in Saudi Arabia and Qatar, which ways, which benefits of setting up a company there are there, because I would say it's not as sophisticated as, say, for instance, the UAE. There's not as many free zones. There's not as many different options. And what we've done is we've come up with a few different structures to assist our clients getting into these markets. Qatar is very similar to the UAE in terms of the type of setup that you have. You still require the 51% ownership and so forth. With Saudi Arabia, there are slight differences because GCC nationals need to own the company, or it can be a lot more expensive. And there's certain angles that we sort of utilize to assist our clients and get more effective options. But it's a very exciting market, both Qatar and Saudi Arabia. You have obviously the World Cup taking place in Qatar, so a lot of people are trying to get into that market at the moment. And also Saudi Arabia is the biggest market in the GCC. So a lot of our clients, particularly our existing clients that have existing businesses in the UAE that are thriving here, are really looking to tap into other markets because there's a lot of business out there for a lot of our clients.
Calum, you specialize quite a bit on the Saudi product. Could you explain the two differences between setting up a MISA foreign-owned company versus a GCC-owned type of structure?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Creative Zone moved into and been operating in Saudi Arabia for almost the past 2 years now. We recently opened an office in Riyadh for our operational purposes there. And there are really two main types of setup in Saudi Arabia. As Romell mentioned, they're not quite up to date with the UAE, with the free zone options, with the sponsorship has been removed. So they're trying to diversify away from oil and gas and their economy and their GDP. They're trying to attract foreign investment into Saudi Arabia, and the economy is really booming at the moment. It is a great for investors. The two main types, if you're firstly a non-GCC national, we would need to go through a government entity called the Ministry of Investment of Saudi Arabia, and we would apply for something called an investment license. This is the only possible way for non-GCC nationals to hold shares within the kingdom currently. They do have plans in the future, but we're a few years away from anything like a free zone in Saudi at the moment. There are a few prerequisites in terms of applying. You do need to have existing businesses. Again, you need corporate documents legalized up to Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Saudi Arabia, but we can assist with that entire process. And the second main option would be you have to be a GCC national. Now, there are partnerships which you can go into, but they would be the two main options. But yeah, if you are interested in more details, we can have a more thorough conversation to explain both processes. I'll be more than happy to share you some quotations, depending on your company setup. So please feel free, drop me an email, get in touch, and we can discuss things further.
Indeed. So to all attendees, if you'd like to learn more about Saudi and Qatar options, Alistair, Romell, and Calum are all fully knowledgeable of these options as well. Alistair, maybe going back to a broader type of thing, what other solutions people need to be aware before they get started in setting up a business? People are asking issues. How do I come to the country? I come in as a tourist, visa before I get there. Can you help and facilitate with this? Give a bit more of the extra things that people should be aware, and where is it that we are able to help clients with?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, short answer to that is everywhere. I mean, it all starts by reaching out to us. All our consultations, initial consultations, are free. All of our team of business setup advisors, of which we have over 14 now, are all trained in advising and proposing the correct solution. In terms of what you need to be aware of here, you need to be aware that the UAE is governed under different sets of laws and regulations that a lot of people tuning in today, particularly Europe, the the US, Africa as well. So when looking to set up your business, there are various things to consider. Where should you set it up? Who you're doing business with? What's your plans for expansion, as we spoke on today? And even going a step before that, do I need a visa to come to the country? Can I enter the country on a visa on arrival? These are all small things that, of course, you have to think about before you get to the airport and get on the plane to come here, and all things that our team are well trained and advised in. Our concierge team can take care of entry visas. We can even pick you up from the airport. We can even look into accommodation options for you. We offer a full service from A to Z, but on a sort of broader scope, business activity is key. How we operate the company, both inside and outside the country, also very key. Do you plan for growth in the next 3 to 5 years? How many employees do you think you'll need? Will you need office space, warehouse space? These are all things that come into the melting pot. So, as I said, I'd implore anyone, please do get in touch. All our consultations are free, and all our advisors are trained to advise, understand, and then propose the right solution.
Excellent, excellent. Romell, maybe if we could give a bit more details on what kind of companies have you seen us setting up a lot in the last few months? What kind of activities have you seen? A lot of, IT related and e-commerce type of companies, so that people that are watching this can relate in regards to the type of businesses that they are looking to develop?
Yeah, sure. E-commerce has been huge. A lot of companies that are already existing are going digital now, just because of the requirement, right? With COVID, shops are a lot less empty. So e-commerce stores for existing companies, and also new e-commerce company stores, are popping up all over the place. Real estate has been a huge market as well at the moment, because where they've removed the requirement of a sponsor, it makes it a lot more cost effective. And this is what we're seeing with a lot of the trading licenses in the mainland. Now that the local sponsor has been removed, people are a lot more comfortable going for a trade license, and also the cost is a lot less. So it makes a lot more sense from that perspective. A lot of IT companies as well coming in internationally, operating here. Cryptocurrency, blockchain has been very, very popular, particularly due to the favorable tax laws here as well. And also the flexible living, the flexible lifestyle that people can lead here. For example, if you're living in Europe, the weather is a key factor. Right? So when the weather is not so good in Europe, it's very good here in the UAE. So you get the best of both worlds. So digital online businesses are very, very popular, and also trading companies, because of the changes in the laws.
Excellent. We have a message from Katie saying that she got connected with us, but she didn't hear back from us. Katie will make sure that somebody's going to reach out to you right after this this webinar. I'm taking note of your details. Calum, what else can we shed light on? What has been your experience over the last month or two, especially during this COVID-19 times, in terms of companies? Where are most of the clients coming from? What countries around the world?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, I mean, I think Dubai is a great place at the moment. The economy is booming. There's a buzz around the UAE in general. Business is going well. We're seeing a record number of registrations from foreign investment. We're getting a wide range of nationalities across the globe to come and set up their businesses here. And I think that's all thanks to how the UAE handled the pandemic originally. So we're in this position now where we're almost fully back to normal. Everything is open, business is normal, the economy is booming again. And also all the initiatives that the Dubai are implementing, they're constantly adapting for expatriates to come and live in the country. They've recently announced lots of new labor laws, such as they're going to implement minimum wages, which is unprecedented before. That's going to be announced soon. They're going to do equal payment for equal work. So no discrimination whatsoever on sex, gender, religion, race. You're going to have equal payment across all companies if you're doing the same job. There's new leave categories, so guaranteed maternity, paternity leave, God forbid, bereavement leave. So there's lots of new to make it just a really attractive, great place and a great country to live at the moment. We're really seeing everything booming, as I mentioned, and yet the foreign investment from India tend to be a large investor, along with the UK is up there in the top 2 or 3 investors. Pakistan, Africa, a lot of Europeans. So we're really seeing a huge amount of investment.
Calum, you're breaking up there a bit. Can you try again now?
Yeah.
So
So yeah, I mean, we're seeing a huge amount of investment from global. A lot of people are moving, not just their businesses, their entire lives here. Especially, I mean, I'm from the UK. We're seeing a lot of people from the UK because they haven't quite handled the pandemic situation quite as well. So we're seeing a lot of foreign UK investment, and people are moving their entire lives over here at the moment, which is great to see for the economy in the country.
Good. Excellent. Romell Massen is asking, if I have a free zone company, can I rent a warehouse in the mainland to do business? Or do I need to have a mainland license for that?
So this depends a lot on what free zone that you have. Some free zones do have warehousing facilities, but you would be limited to where you can get this warehouse. So you have obviously JAFSA and so forth, which do have warehouse facilities. But if, say, for instance, you have a Fujairah license, the Sharjah license, and you're planning to get a warehouse in Dubai, it's not going to be possible unless you sort of get some third-party agreement with someone that has a warehouse space anyway. So my advice on that perspective would even think about changing your trade license, right? I think if you have a free zone trade license and you're operating and you're looking to get a warehouse here, maybe get a mainland trade license, because you'll be able to get a warehouse associated to the trade license.
Good. Blessing is asking, can you kindly send presentation recording and proposal to her email? We'll be sending you that. Blessing will be getting in touch. Maybe one final time, Alistair, Romell, Calum, I'll ask you to put your emails down there on the chat in case, because sometimes the chat starts popping up and we lose the email track. Maybe we're close to wrapping up for today. Alistair, what would be your sort of the final thoughts for today? How is it that you can help people? And I will ask the tech team one more time to include a link to the landing page. If anybody wants to have all our proposals in terms of the pricing, fill in this form and we'll send you all the pricing for the free zones and mainland. Alistair, your final thoughts for today?
Yeah, absolutely. I think my Calum summarized it well. The UAE is really in a great place, and we're coming out of this pandemic very, very strong. Those licensing numbers, which we opened with, just to recap, 70% growth in mainland licenses last year alone. As Calum also pointed out, we're seeing record number of registrations, both here at Credit Zone, both free zone and onshore, which just gives you a small taste of what's happening here. And I think the UAE as a whole, and I think even the wider region, is going to experience a huge boom in 2022. We obviously have the Expo here, which is going incredibly well, generating a lot of interest. The whole city, Dubai, the whole country is buzzing. So it's a great time to come and get set up here. I think we're in for an amazing year. Vaccinations have gone incredibly well. Restrictions haven't been implemented since, the first lockdown in 2020. So I think the UAE is a very safe place to come and invest, come and start your business. And as I've said earlier, please do get in touch. All our consultations are free. Our advisors are fully trained to offer you the correct solution based on your requirements. So please do not hesitate to reach out. And we look forward to hearing from everyone soon.
Excellent. Thank you, Alistair. Romell, your final thoughts, and maybe combined with a question. I have somebody asking, any special conditions to convert a free zone license into a mainland? Can somebody move a free zone into a mainland, or do you need to cancel a free zone and start a new mainland business?
No, in order for you to get a new mainland license, you'll have to cancel the free zone license and then open up a mainland license. My advice on that would be to make sure you plan accordingly. So I would start opening up the mainland license before you close down the free zone company, just for banking, because obviously you can't have the same bank account with a different company. So once you open up the second company, you can speak with your bank, you can explain to them that you're moving from a free zone to a mainland trade license, and make sure they ensure a smooth passage when it comes to banking and so forth. But the answer to the question is no, you can't transfer from one free zone to a mainland or to another free zone for that matter.
Excellent. Excellent.
In terms of, it's a very exciting time. As we've seen here at Creative Zone, particularly by the amount of people that are setting up companies here, business here in the UAE is thriving. I think the Monday to Friday week is only going to help that. think aligning ourselves with the rest of the world is a great move. And it's just an exciting time to be here. I think, like Calum mentioned about the sort of the vaccination rate, the sort of work that the government are doing to ensure that the company keeps turning the wheel. So it's a very exciting time for us, and please reach out, even if it's just to understand a little bit more of how your business is going to operate. Even if you're not planning to set the company up in the next year or so, just get in contact with us, get a business plan together, and we can assist you along your journey. You're on mute, Lorenzo.
Sorry for that. Thank you, Romell, and thank you for those comments. Calum, your final thoughts for today, and also combined with a question. It says, is there a limit to the number of visas a company with a mainland license can issue to workers coming from outside the country?
Yeah, so on the visa allocation, so typically across Dubai with DED Mainland, you'll have a visa allocation according to the size of the office space that you rent. On average, it's around about 70 square foot per one visa allocation. But the co-working solutions that we actually provide come with a set allocation of 8 visas. So we can provide you, if you're a small startup, medium-sized business, we can give you an allocation on our co-working solutions and packages to get you up and running with your company initially. And yeah, like my colleague said, Ali and Romell, I would just advise you to reach out with us. It's a free consultation. We're here to help. We'd advise you on exactly on what type of license you need, what business you need, whether it's free zone, whether it's mainland, whether you need a multiple layered corporate structure. We can assist with the whole process from start to finish. So yeah,
you're breaking up again, Calum. You're breaking up. Let me see. Try now.
Yeah. So just feel free to reach out to us.
That's better. That's better now. Try.
Okay. Yeah. So feel free to reach out with us. It's a free consultation. We're here to help, and we can advise with everything for all company setups, visa, banking, lots of additional concierge services on top of that as well. So we look forward to hearing from you.
Great. We have one other question. It says, when does the Monday, Friday week start? It has already started. It started on the first week of January. And I think most of the private companies and government entities have jumped into this new working week. So yeah, I think this is all for today. To all the attendees, we've had about 95 people connected all throughout, plus the people on our social media channels. For all of you that would like to connect with Alistair, Romell, and Calum, the emails are there. You can find them on LinkedIn as well. You can fill in those forms, and we'll be for sure getting in touch with you individually and try to help you through this journey of coming and doing business in Dubai and the UAE. If is that you are still outside, or if you're already here, we're happy to meet with you and explore how we can help you. Once again, Alistair, Romell, and Calum, thank you so much for attending.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you.